The internet did not see this coming. One minute, Mase and Camron were laughing casually on their show, and the next, they launched into one of the most brutal, disrespectful, career-ending roast sessions the industry has ever witnessed, aimed directly at Dame Dash. It wasn't playful, it wasn't lighthearted, it was savage. Because when word broke that Dame Dash's movie Honor Up had allegedly been sold for only $100, Mase and Cam did what they do best. They clowned him so hard, even fans started asking if Dame should sue for emotional damages. Clips spread instantly, Cam wiping tears from his eyes as he laughed, Mase nearly falling out of his chair, the entire set shaking from how hard they were going in. It wasn't just jokes, it was a public execution. $100, Cam shouted, slamming the table, unable to breathe. That ain't a movie deal, that's a DoorDash tip. The crew lost it. The chat exploded. People were replaying the clip on loop like it was a word-star knockout. But the craziest part, according to an insider who claims to have seen the contract, the $100 wasn't symbolic. It wasn't a typo, it was allegedly the real number. And that's why Mase and Cam refused to hold back. They said Dame had been talking big for years, and this was their moment to expose the cracks in his empire. They said if Dame was the boss he preached about, there's no universe where a movie deal looks like this. They said they've been quiet long enough, but here's the truth, their roast wasn't just jokes. It was revenge, it was personal, and it was fueled by history the public has never been told. Because before the laughter started, before the $100 punchline, before the cameras even rolled, there was tension between these men so deep, so messy, so undeniably explosive, this was bound to happen. Long before Mase and Camron burst into uncontrollable laughter over Dame Dash's Honor Up movie supposedly being sold for only $100, there was a storm quietly brewing behind the scenes. A storm fueled by years of resentment, pride, betrayal, money issues, broken alliances, and wounds that never fully healed. Because these men, they weren't random personalities taking cheap shots for views. They weren't outsiders poking fun from a safe distance. They were once brothers, tied together through Harlem culture, rap history, and the chaotic legacy of Rockefeller Records. A legacy that Dame Dash built with his blood, sweat, and louder-than-life charisma, and the same legacy that eventually became the center of one of hip-hop's most painful fractures. This wasn't just a joke. This wasn't just a roast. This was decades of tension exploding on camera. To understand why Mase and Cam laughed so hard, you have to understand the history they carry. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, Harlem was a battlefield of ambition, talent, and ego. Camron was skyrocketing, Dipset was forming its identity, Mase was balancing music and faith, and Dame Dash was the unstoppable force pushing the culture forward. He was the guy everyone wanted in their corner. Loud, fearless, untouchable, Dame was known for fighting for his artists, cursing out executives, even flipping tables if he felt disrespected. But the same fire that made him powerful eventually burned every bridge around him. When Rockefeller split, when Jay-Z went one way and Dame went another, people started noticing a shift. Dame was still loud, still confident, still calling out everyone he believed wronged him, but the empire he once stood atop had crumbled beneath his feet. And in hip-hop, once you're no longer on top, everybody you ever clashed with remembers every word you said. Mase and Cam remembered plenty, especially Cam. There were rumors Dame had once dismissed Cam's early ambitions. Some say Dame didn't believe Cam deserved a bigger role at Rockefeller. Others swear Dame blocked certain opportunities, thinking Cam wasn't polished enough for the spotlight Jay-Z demanded. Whether true or not, resentment lingered, simmering quietly while Cam built Dipset into a cultural powerhouse of its own. And Mase, he had his own complicated history with Dame, from the Harlem streets to industry politics to private conversations nobody ever fully understood. But one thing was clear, Mase never forgot the way Dame carried himself, talked down to people, boasted about his dominance, acted like the boss of every room he walked into. So when Dame started promoting Honor Up, calling it a passion project, a masterpiece, a film that would change the game, Cam and Mase watched from afar, shrugging it off. But when the rumor hit, the rumor that the movie was allegedly sold for only $100, that's when everything inside them snapped. Not because of the movie, not because of the number, but because to them it symbolized something much deeper. The fall of a man who once bragged about never falling. The same Dame Dash who shouted about ownership, independence, never needing help, never bowing to corporations, now allegedly had a film deal worth less than a pair of sneakers. A man who preached wealth and power suddenly faced a headline that looked like a punchline. And Cam was ready. People close to the situation say Cam had been holding back comments for years. That he'd been waiting, watching, storing every moment Dame insulted him, dismissed him, or acted superior. Not for revenge, but to remind the world of something people forget about Cam. He doesn't start battles, but he finishes them beautifully. Mase felt the same. Their chemistry on their show wasn't accidental. It was built on shared experiences, shared frustrations, and shared memories of how Dame had moved in the industry. So when the $100 rumor surfaced, they didn't see a financial detail. They saw karma wrapped in cellophane delivered overnight. They saw the mighty Dame Dash, the man who used to scream on cameras about boss moves, now being presented with one of the most embarrassing allegations a filmmaker could face. And the laughter, that wasn't comedy. That was release. That was vindication. That was years of swallowing pride, finally erupting in a moment of pure, uncontrolled honesty. Because behind their jokes, there was a truth they both understood deeply. Dame wasn't laughing. Dame wasn't amused. Dame wasn't brushing this off. He was furious. Sources close to Dame say he felt betrayed, blindsided, humiliated. He believes Mase and Cam used their platform to kick him while he was down. That they attacked his character, his legacy, his business reputation, all for entertainment. But insiders on the other side say this was personal justice. That Mase and Cam finally said what countless artists and executives have been thinking but never dared to say aloud. Dame Dash's downfall wasn't an accident. It was the result of years of burned bridges, ego-driven decisions, and enemies made along the way. And the $100 movie, that was the perfect symbol of everything collapsing at once. But here's where the story gets even darker. Because according to a leaked conversation shared anonymously online, the $100 rumor was only the beginning. A person very close to Dame, allegedly leaked more information. Information that made the situation worse. Information that Mase and Cam may not have known, but definitely reacted to once they found out. Because behind the laughter, behind the jokes, behind the viral moment, there was a second twist brewing that would take this feud from entertainment to war. A twist involving contracts, betrayal, and a secret Dame Dash has been hiding, one that could explain everything. And once Mase and Cam learned the truth, they didn't just laugh, they went nuclear. The real explosion didn't happen on camera. It didn't happen during the laughter or the jokes, or even when Camron nearly fell out of his seat yelling, $100. No, that was just the spark. The true detonation happened behind the scenes, where egos, secrets, and unfinished business collided like flaming debris in a collapsing building. Because while the public was laughing, Dame Dash wasn't. According to an insider, someone who has worked closely with Dame for years, the moment Dame saw the clip of Mase and Cam roasting him, he completely froze. Not angry, not confused, frozen. Like someone had just reminded him of something he desperately wanted to forget. And that's when the first twist came to light, the rumor about the movie being sold for $100. It wasn't just a rumor. It wasn't a random blog post. It wasn't misinformation. It was a calculated leak strategically dropped by someone in Dame's own circle. A person who had access to the paperwork, a person who knew Dame's financial moves, a person who had been waiting for the perfect moment to expose him. And the worst part, this person didn't leak it to destroy Dame's reputation. They leaked it to get to Mase and Cam. Because what nobody knew was that Dame had been quietly working behind the scenes to sabotage a project Mase and Cam were building, a project that could have elevated their platform to the next level. A project involving distribution deals, partnerships, and a potential TV network collaboration. Dame, according to insiders, did not want them to succeed without him. He had allegedly been whispering to executives, calling producers, dropping concerns about Cam's reliability, about Mace's consistency, about their show's lack of structure. Little digs, little doubts, enough to slow the deal, but not enough to trace directly back to him. But someone did trace it back, someone close, someone who saw Dame playing puppet master again. So when they leaked the $100 deal, they weren't aiming at Dame alone. They wanted the Harlem Boys to see it, to tear him apart, to expose him in a way no executive memo ever could. Mase and Cam didn't know all this at first. They simply reacted to the headline. A movie sold for $100. After all the bragging Dame had done, of course they laughed. But after the cameras stopped rolling, after the clips went viral, after the group chat began buzzing like an alarm, that's when things got real. One of their sources, someone who had worked with Dame during the filming of Honor Up, sent Cam a voice note. A voice note that changed everything. In the recording, the source said, "Cam, this wasn't a loss. This wasn't a mistake. This was a cover up. Dame needed that film off his hands fast before people started asking questions." Cam replayed it 5 times. What questions? What was Dame hiding? That's when another bomb dropped. A leaked PDF, 8 pages long, landed in their inbox. The alleged original distribution agreement. On page 3, highlighted in yellow, was a sentence that changed the tone of the entire situation. Buyer assumes liability for any outstanding claims related to production. Liability, outstanding claims, production issues. According to the source, Dame didn't sell the movie for $100 because it had no value. He sold it for $100 because it had problems. legal ones, financial ones, potentially criminal ones. And whoever bought the movie was now responsible for cleaning up the mess. Mase stared at the document and said what everyone else was thinking, so he basically paid someone to take it, but it got worse. Pages 5 through 8 contained expense reports, things that shouldn't have been there, payments marked as miscellaneous, cash withdrawals, unnamed vendors, duplicate invoices, amounts that didn't match up. Someone had been hiding money. Someone had been falsifying numbers. Someone had been using Honor Up as a funnel for something deeper. And suddenly, the $100 sale didn't look funny anymore. It looked dangerous. Mase and Cam sat with the information for hours. Long enough for the laughter in their viral clip to feel hauntingly ironic. They hadn't just roasted Dame. They had roasted a man sitting on a time bomb. The insider who leaked the documents then told them something even more shocking. There were two versions of the movie, one you saw and one Dame kept hidden. A secret cut, a version that never reached theaters, a version that allegedly contained footage Dame didn't want anyone to see. Footage that would reshuffle everything, according to the source. Cam wasn't laughing anymore. Neither was Mase, because if this footage was real, if Dame had suppressed it, then everything they thought they knew about Dame's downfall was incomplete. He wasn't just losing deals, he wasn't just struggling financially. He was protecting something involving the cast, something involving investors, something involving a situation on set that was never documented publicly. And that's when the first real twist hit. The insider revealed that one of the actors in Honor Up had filed a private complaint. The details were sealed. The actors involved were silenced. Dame had allegedly settled the issue quietly, using the movie's budget to cover the costs. This was why the paperwork looked suspicious. This was why the film needed to disappear. This was why the $100 sale wasn't a joke, it was an escape hatch. When Mase heard this, he stood up abruptly and said, "Oh, this man ain't tell no truth about nothing." Cam leaned back, hands on his head, whispering. So he was hiding bad money and bad behavior, but the insider wasn't finished. They revealed that Dame had accused Mase and Cam of being the reason the truth never made it out. Dame blamed them, claiming their jokes, their show, their personalities overshadowed his attempts to rebuild his brand. He told multiple people, "They wanna laugh at me, cool. But they're the ones who messed everything up." That accusation, that misplaced blame, set the stage for the next explosion, because Camron does not take kindly to lies, and Mase does not take kindly to scapegoating. What started as a comedy bit transformed into a mission to expose Dame's hypocrisy, a mission to reveal what he'd been hiding, a mission to show the world that Dame Dash wasn't just a man who fumbled a movie deal. He was a man who covered up something much bigger, and that mission became personal. The moment Cam received the final message from the insider, a message containing a name, the name of the person Dame had allegedly silenced. The person tied to the secret footage, the person whose complaint forced Dame to sell the movie for nearly nothing. And when Cam read that name, his jaw dropped. His phone slipped out of his hand. He whispered, "Bro, no way, no way," because the name wasn't random. It wasn't an extra. It wasn't a background actor. It was someone the public knew, someone respected, someone with a following, someone who had every reason to come forward but didn't. And according to the insider, they didn't come forward because Dame threatened to expose one of their secrets if they did. Now Mase and Cam weren't laughing at Dame Dash anymore. They were preparing to go to war. The moment Camron read the name of the person Dame Dash allegedly silenced, everything inside him shifted. His smile disappeared. His tone changed. The laughter from earlier felt like it belonged to a different lifetime. Mase could tell instantly something in Cam snapped, something personal, something deep. "Cam, who is it?" Mase asked, leaning forward. Cam didn't answer at first. He just stared at the screen, breathing slowly like he was processing the weight of what he'd just learned. Then finally, he whispered the words that made Mase's eyes widen. He threatened them, Dame threatened them. Because this wasn't an unknown actor. This wasn't a small-time contributor. This wasn't someone who could be brushed aside. This was someone who had a history with Dame, someone who had helped him, someone whose name would instantly ignite the internet if it ever got out, and suddenly the jokes weren't jokes anymore. This wasn't comedy. This wasn't playful Harlem clowning. This was a cover-up wrapped in contracts, buried under NDAs, and sealed with fear. But the deeper Mase and Cam looked into the situation, the darker it became, because the insider didn't just provide a name. They sent screenshots of messages, screenshots of emails, screenshots of conversations that had been deleted from Dame's devices, but not from the people he had spoken to. One message from Dame to the individual read: "If you go public, we all lose." Another one said, "I protected you once, don't forget that." But the most disturbing message, the one Cam replayed over and over, said, "We don't need another scandal." Keep quiet. The phrasing was chilling, the implication even worse. Because according to the insider, Dame wasn't protecting himself. He was protecting someone else involved in the situation. Someone the public never would have associated with the movie. Someone with influence, real influence, who allegedly pulled strings behind the scenes. And this person was the real reason the deal dropped to $100. Not because the film had no value, but because Dame had to get rid of it before anyone connected the dots between the footage, the complaint, and the unnamed influential figure. Mase scrolled through the screenshots, shaking his head, repeating, "Bro, this is deeper than movies. This man been moving crazy." Cam sat back, rubbing his forehead, whispering to himself, "So this why he mad at us. Cause we laughing, but ain't she the one hiding a whole scandal?" But the insider wasn't done. They asked Cam to check the timestamps on the messages, and when he did, everything clicked, because the complaint didn't happen during production. It happened after filming wrapped, weeks later, when the cast was already promoting the movie, and the insider revealed something nobody saw coming. The incident, the one Dame allegedly covered up, didn't happen on set. It happened at an after-party hosted by Dame, a private one, a closed-door one, a no-phones-allowed one. And at that party, according to the insider, something happened involving the same named individual, something serious enough that they filed a complaint the next day. Dame allegedly begged them not to escalate it, said he would fix everything, said going public would ruin lives, said the complaint could destroy people who don't deserve it. But the insider said the individual wasn't trying to expose Dame. They were trying to protect themselves, because they had a secret too, a secret Dame used as leverage. And once he threatened to expose that secret, the individual backed down, signing the NDA, staying silent, and disappearing from the public eye for months. Suddenly, the $100 movie sale wasn't funny at all. It was a smokescreen, a distraction, a way for Dame to bury the evidence, the footage, the budget discrepancies, the legal liabilities before anyone connected it to the after-party incident. But here's where the story takes a terrifying turn. The insider revealed that there is video, footage from a security camera outside the private room at the party, footage showing Dame, the individual, and a third person entering the room before the incident occurred. A third person the public never knew was involved. A third person with a direct connection to Dame's business ventures. Someone who had invested money. Someone who had power to shut down the entire project if they wanted to. And according to the insider, that person, not Dame, not the named individual, was the one the complaint was really about. Mase slammed his hands on the table. "So Dame ain't just hiding his own scandal, he hiding someone else's?" Cam nodded slowly. "That's why the sale was so low. He wasn't selling the movie, he was getting rid of the evidence. Because if the footage ever leaked, if the complaint ever resurfaced, if the identity of the third person ever came out, it wouldn't just ruin Dame. It would ruin everyone connected to him. Executives, investors, artists, brands, partnerships. Dame wasn't protecting his legacy. He was protecting a network. But the insider dropped one more bomb, the biggest one yet. The person he's covering for, they're still in his life, still doing business, still showing up to events like nothing happened." Mase stared, Cam froze. This wasn't buried in the past. This wasn't a forgotten scandal. This wasn't a relic of Dame's downfall. This was current, still active, still dangerous, still capable of blowing up the entire hip-hop and business ecosystem Dame is connected to. But the insider ended the conversation with something that sent chills through both Mase and Cam. The only reason this hasn't come out is because nobody knows the identity of the third person. If their name ever leaks, it's over. Then they added, "And trust me, someone is about to leak it." Mase leaned forward, whispering, "Who?" The insider paused for 10 seconds, long enough for Cam to hold his breath. Then they said, "The same person who leaked the $100 sale rumor, Dame's own right hand." And before Cam or Mase could respond, the insider sent a final message. "They're planning to go public next week." The screen went dark. Mase and Cam stared at each other, because if Dame's own right hand is leaking information, then the next leak won't just embarrass Dame, it will end him. And the world isn't ready for the name that's about to come out, not even close. The moment whispers of a third person and a secretly buried scandal hit the internet, everything went nuclear. What started as harmless laughter over a $100 movie deal suddenly transformed into one of the most chaotic cultural firestorms Harlem and hip-hop had seen in years. People weren't just joking anymore. They weren't just clowning Dame, they were investigating him. Twitter turned into a full-blown detective agency overnight. Reddit threads exploded. YouTube commentators rushed to upload hour-long breakdowns. Fan pages started diving into old interviews, old footage, old partnerships, trying to piece together who the mysterious third person could be. The hashtag #HonorUpgate took over social media in less than an hour. One viral tweet read, "Bro, Dame got a whole scandal he sold for $100. This ain't a movie sale, this is a cover UP." Another user wrote, "Someone said a third person was involved." Harlem detectives do your job, and the memes, oh, the memes were ruthless. One showed Dame placing a $100 bill on a table with the caption, "Let me get that movie off your hands, big bro." Another one had Cam and Mase laughing with FBI badges photoshopped on, labeled, "Honor up investigators." But the reactions weren't all jokes. Some of the biggest names in hip-hop weighed in. A well-respected producer tweeted, "If what I'm hearing about that after party is true, this gone get dark for a lot of people." A Harlem OG posted, "Cam and Mase ain't lying, folks been covering for Dame for years." Another artist who once worked with Dame wrote, "I got stories y'all ain't ready for. He lucky the right people stayed silent." But the most chilling reaction came from someone who rarely posts, an industry veteran who tweeted, "A movie don't get sold for $100 unless somebody running." The tweet was deleted 12 minutes later, but screenshots live forever. Meanwhile, Dame Dash's team scrambled for control. They started deleting old posts, turning off comments, blocking accounts, and issuing vague statements like, "Don't believe everything you see online." That only made things worse. Every time Dame tried to deny the rumors, the internet dug deeper. People began resurfacing old interviews where Dame bragged about his integrity, calling himself the only real one in the industry. Commenters tore those clips apart. One wrote, "Funny how the loudest boss always got the messiest secrets." Even celebrities who had nothing to do with the situation chimed in because the chaos was that entertaining. A comedian posted, "Dame sold his movie for $100. That's not honor up, that's marked down." A female rapper wrote, "Imagine threatening someone then selling your movie for gas money." Could never be me, but the real frenzy started when someone claiming to be an ex-employee of Dame dropped a comment under a viral post. "Y'all don't know half of what went down. That footage exists." Trust me, the comment had 30,000 likes before it mysteriously disappeared. Instagram blogs began posting alleged timelines of Dame's downfall. TikTok creators reenacted the supposed after-party incident. People began questioning Dame's entire career. Suddenly, every project he'd ever touched was under the microscope. This wasn't gossip anymore. This was a takedown. Then the media stepped in. Hip-hop news outlets ran headlines like, "Dame Dash accused of cover-up involving hidden footage, more secrets coming." Entertainment blogs added fuel. Source claims Dame threatened key witness, investigation incoming. Even mainstream newspapers teased the story. Former music mogul faces explosive allegations linked to low-budget film sale. By this point, Dame's name trended for 48 hours straight. He tried to play it cool in a brief livestream, saying, "I'm not worried about clowns, I'm about business." But his face told another story. His energy was off, his voice cracked twice. He kept glancing down like he was reading frantic messages off screen. In the comment section, people tore him apart. "Blink twice if the third person watching you. You ain't selling no movie for $100 unless you hiding something. Where's the footage, Dame? Why you deleting comments?" And while Dame struggled to keep the narrative under control, Cam and Mase stayed silent publicly, which somehow made the situation 10 times worse. Every time they didn't respond, the internet assumed that meant they were digging up more information. Fans spammed their comments, "Drop the name, don't hold back, we need part 2 ASAP, reveal the third person." Even celebrities asked Cam and Mase privately what was going on. One leaked DM from a rapper said, "Bro, tell me who the third person is before Twitter kills me with theories." Meanwhile, Dame's circle began to fracture. People who once defended him suddenly stepped away. One longtime collaborator unfollowed him. Another posted a cryptic message, "Loyalty don't mean covering up lies." And then it happened. A mysterious account posted what they claimed was a blurred screenshot of the third person entering the party room with Dame and the named individual. The image was too blurry to identify, but it was clear enough to send shockwaves. People zoomed in, enhanced the shadows, analyzed the shoes, the jacket, the posture. The internet turned into CSI Harlem. Theories exploded, some believable, some insane, all viral. But the most terrifying reaction came from someone with a verified checkmark, a person known for exposing industry secrets, who tweeted, "I know who the third person is. Trust me, it's worse than you think." The tweet was deleted instantly, and the account went private, but the panic was already unlocked, because if this person is scared, if insiders are hinting, if Dame's own right hand is leaking information, then the story isn't just scandalous. It's dangerous. The public wants answers, celebrities want clarity, executives want distance. And Dame Dash, he's running out of places to hide, because the next leak, the next screenshot, the next name will change everything. The internet thought it had the story figured out. Dame Dash sold Honor Up for $100 to bury evidence. A mystery third person was involved, and insiders were leaking everything from the shadows. But the truth, the real truth, was so much darker, so much more explosive, and so far beyond anyone's imagination that the moment it finally surfaced, the entire hip-hop world froze. Because the third person wasn't who anyone expected, not an actor, not an investor, not a producer, not an industry executive. The third person was someone closer to Dame than the public ever realized. Someone who had moved beside him for years. Someone who had access to everything, the finances, the footage, the contracts, the parties. And this person wasn't just present at the after-party incident. They orchestrated the entire situation. According to a brand new leak, one so shocking insiders scrambled to shut it down within minutes. The third person was actually helping Dame manage the fallout until Dame made a critical mistake. He blamed them in private. He told multiple people that it was this third person who caused the complaint, this third person who ruined the film's future, this third person who forced him to sell the movie for nearly nothing, this third person who messed up his legacy. What Dame didn't know was that the person he was blaming was the same person leaking information to Mase and Cam, his own right hand, the one person he trusted the most. And the reason they started leaking wasn't revenge, it was fear. Because according to the leaked documents, this third person wasn't just involved, they were named directly in the sealed complaint. Their identity was hidden, protected by lawyers, covered by the NDA Dame forced the victim to sign. But if their name ever came out publicly, their career, their money, their relationships, their entire future gone. They weren't leaking because they hated Dame. They were leaking because they knew Dame was preparing to sacrifice them to save himself. In the leaked audio clip, the one that hit the internet only briefly before disappearing, Dame can be heard saying, "If they push this, I'm pointing them to you. I'm not going down alone." Silence, a breath, and then the third person's voice, "You really think I'm gonna let you do that?" That one moment changed everything. Because what happened next wasn't just betrayal, it was war. The insider told Mase and Cam that Dame's right hand had already prepared an entire dossier of evidence to leak publicly. Not the blurry clips, not the half screenshots. Not the cryptic hints, the full truth, names, dates, footage logs, receipts, contracts, NDA correspondence, even the hidden camera timestamps from the after-party. But here's where the twist becomes catastrophic. The right hand wasn't acting alone. They had a partner, someone else helping them leak information strategically, someone with stakes in the situation, someone who wanted Dame destroyed completely, a shadow figure, an invisible force. An individual the insider called simply the overseer. This overseer had been monitoring Dame for years, tracking his financial movements, his business deals, his partnerships, waiting for the moment Dame would slip up. And when the $100 movie sale happened, they struck. The overseer coordinated the leaks. The overseer fed the stories to smaller blogs. The overseer encouraged Dame's right hand to turn against him. The overseer pushed the narrative forward with precision. But nobody knew who the overseer was. Not Mase, not Cam, not Dame, not the public. Until one final message appeared anonymously in Cam's inbox. "He thinks you're laughing at him. But you're laughing at the wrong man. Dame didn't ruin himself. Someone else did, someone he trusts more than anybody." Attached was a single image, a screenshot, a still frame from the hidden security footage. The image was grainy, the lighting low, but clear enough to identify the silhouettes of Dame, the named victim, and the third person. Cam zoomed in. His face dropped. Mase leaned over, his jaw locked tight. Because the third person wasn't some industry middleman. It wasn't a forgotten collaborator. It wasn't an associate from Dame's past. It was someone who had been appearing beside Dame constantly, someone fans thought was harmless. Someone everyone assumed was loyal, someone who had access to every piece of Dame's business, and someone who had been preparing for years to tear him down. But before Cam and Mase could say anything publicly, before the screenshot could leak, before anyone could process the truth, the anonymous account that sent the image posted one final message. "They're about to make their move. Dame won't see it coming. And when the name drops, Harlem will never be the same." Then the account deleted itself, and suddenly the entire internet fell silent. Because the biggest plot twist of the story wasn't the scandal, it was the person behind it. Someone powerful, someone intentional, someone whose identity is moments away from exploding across headlines worldwide. The name hasn't leaked yet, the footage hasn't surfaced, the overseer hasn't made the final strike, but they will. And when it happens, it won't just destroy Dame's career, it will expose a secret that could collapse a massive chunk of the culture itself. The countdown has already started, and nobody can stop it. And now that everything has unraveled, now that the truth is circling Dame Dash like a storm with no warning, the most important part of this entire story begins with you. Because at this point, the internet isn't just watching, it's investigating, it's hunting, it's trying to connect dots that Dame spent years trying to hide. But the real question is, who do you think the third person is? Who do you think Dame's right hand has been leaking these secrets to protect? And more importantly, who is the overseer, the shadow figure pulling strings behind every twist, every leak, every scandal, every collapse? Do you think Dame is the victim in this situation? Or was he the architect of his own downfall? Was he betrayed by the people closest to him? Or is this karma finally catching up? And what about the footage? Do you believe it exists? Do you think the after-party incident is worse than what we've been told? Do you think that NDA was signed willingly or under pressure? Because the second that footage leaks, the second that name drops, the second the overseer makes their move, this entire story flips again. So I want you to comment below, who do you think the hidden figure is? Whose silhouette did Cam see? Whose involvement would shake Harlem, hip-hop, and Dame's career to the core? Drop your theories, drop your predictions. Drop your conspiracies. And if you want part 2, if you want the next leak, the next twist, the next hidden truth waiting to detonate, make sure you're subscribed, make sure notifications are on, and make sure you don't miss what's coming next. Because trust me, the next chapter, it's not just bigger, it's deadly.